Welcome to another episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. And today we will be speaking with Will Black. He's part of our CFI team here at Thrustlight. I'm excited to talk to Will because you're part of the Envoy Cadet program at this point, and there's some questions I have about that I think is important for current students in CFIs to try to get a grasp of. Also, you're a CFI, and that's something that's just always going to be something we want to talk about here on Pilots Say What. My name is Zach. I host this podcast from week to week. We post weekly videos on YouTube, and of course, the audio goes out on streaming platforms. So wherever you are, whether you're listening or you're watching, thank you for joining in, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's just go ahead and get into it. I have my first question. Let's just, you might know what this question is.
Yeah.
Pause. What?
What?
Exactly. I usually use that as the intro to say, welcome to this episode, but it's the first time doing it in a while. Maybe we'll bring this back. If y'all are listening, let me know if this is something that you're used to hearing. But my real first question is, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience? Just kind of like who you are and where you are in your flight journey.
Yeah. So my name's Will Black. I started Thrust in March of 24. Finished about just over a year later, and now I instruct for Thrust. Just recently did a Envoy Cadet Instructor interview, and I got the position, and that just brings me where I am today, instructing every day at Thrust and just having a blast doing it.
Awesome. You said you finished the program in about a year?
Yeah, about a year.
Gotcha. So you got to become a CFI in about that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's really cool. How long did you expect it to take originally?
So I thought, actually, I went to a Part 61 school before, and I trained there for like a day, and I did like one flight, right, and after that I asked my instructor, I was like, how long do you think it's going to take me to get my private pilot license? He's like, a year. And I was like, what? And I had a friend at Thrust, and I was like, hey, how long did it take you to get your private pilot license? He's like, 2 months. I was like, okay, I'm going to Thrust. So I came, I took a little tour and loved the culture. The atmosphere is great. Like I could feel it from the second I got into Thrust, and took a tour, and it was wraps from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you, before you started flight training, even at the Part 61, how much did you know about flight training or aviation or even just
So no prior experience. Watched a lot of movies about flying, and I was like, oh, flying's awesome, I took one discovery flight and then that one flight at the Part 61 school, and it just doesn't compare to Thrust. The plane's like barely starting, we're in run up, and it's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you get in a Thrust plane the first time, you're like, wait, it doesn't make all the noises the other plane made. It's a nice plane. So yeah.
Did you what did you do before you started flight training?
So I went to flight training right after high school, but after high school I was a diesel technician for about a year. And being a diesel mechanic is a pretty hard life.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of work every single day. You're out there sweating all summer long. We didn't have an AC shop, nothing like that. So I worked outside in the summer on diesel trucks, and I was sick of burning myself every day and, busting my knuckles up. And I was sick of that life, and I loved aviation. Well, I thought I loved aviation, right? I didn't have a lot of experience on it, but hopped into it, and turns out I do love it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind, Will, I just want to give one announcement, actually. We are hosting a big event at our main hangar here in Addison this year. We hosted it last year as well. It was called Thrust Day. It's a celebratory day for all of our pilots who are joining and are moving through the program, but even more so about everything that's going on here at Thrust. We ground all the planes, which is a little expensive. We make sure that no one's flying and that everyone's in the hangar. We have friends and family for our pilots come in. We have games, free food, and we have guest speakers from the airlines, and everyone's going to be in there. It's a good time where everyone can connect. But the reason we're hosting this is so that not only can our student population and their friends and family connect, but so that if other people who are interested in starting flight training just haven't done it yet, or you've maybe been wanting to take a tour, this is our open house day. this is basically our open house day. So this is our first anniversary of Thrust Day. It's on April 20th, and I think you guys should come through if you've been interested. That way, you kind of see what we do here at Thrust. You can see what it's like to be a student, an instructor, and be a part of our team and our family. So I'll say it one more time: April 20th, first anniversary of Thrust Day. Bring friends and family. Come take a tour of our campus. Contact admissions, and we'll get you set up right away. Are you from Texas?
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
from Fort Worth, Texas.
Mhm.
Was born and raised here.
Mhm.
Um, lived with my parents, and we've never moved once. Haven't really traveled at all.
Okay.
And then we finally started traveling when I got into high school, and I
Okay.
started loving traveling. And I
That's
was
awesome.
like, I need to get a travel job, a job where I can just travel whenever I want.
That's really
Well,
cool.
a pilot can do that,
Right.
so that's kind of what brought me into aviation as well.
Yeah. Oh, you talk about in high school y'all started traveling, and then you kind of got interested in the idea of traveling for work. Even though you kind of went into the diesel tech before flight training,
Yeah.
did you think you were gonna go and do something else out of high school?
I was dead set on being a diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
I took high school classes to do that, and
Okay.
that was my goal, was
Yeah.
be a diesel mechanic, and that's all I had for myself.
Yeah.
And aviation just offers so many better opportunities. I mean,
Mm.
there's so many different pathways you can take.
Yeah.
You never get stuck. You're constantly learning, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate going to a job every day where I learn something new every
Mm.
single day, and it's just there's countless opportunities.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting the way it
Yeah,
sounds. When I
yeah,
talk to the pilots, they love. I get sometimes jealous of the nuance, and if I was too stuck to a desk, I'd probably just join you guys.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll ask this though. That I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the diesel mechanic stuff
yeah,
because going out of high school, I thought maybe I was gonna end up working on planes or something like that, right?
yeah,
I went a whole nother direction in life, but uh, to think that you really want to do something and then to realize that maybe I don't is its own journey mentally. I feel
yeah.
like.
No, it was.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about like how you kind of learned you didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
and yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
So I started off working the diesel mechanic job. In the first few weeks, I loved it. Like loved everything about it.
Hmm.
And the more you're at a shop, it takes a mental toll.
Okay.
And every single day, like I said, I was just working my butt off,
Hmm.
um, busting my knuckles. I was out there in the hot summer days every single day. Came home dehydrated,
Uh huh.
not feeling good. I would just take a shower and go straight to sleep.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not a fun life to live.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't. There was no new opportunities. I had
Mm.
grown as much as I could in the position, and I started to not like that job at
Yeah.
all anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what brought me into, researching other things.
Hmm.
And I was pretty smart in high school, and I felt like I wasn't using, my knowledge for my career. I had
Yeah.
just kind of capped, and I was okay with that.
Mm.
And I got really complacent in that job. And
Hmm.
so I researched aviation, and that's what brought me into flying. And that mind shift was a big change, because I'd gone from not studying at all for a year
Hmm.
to now I start at Thrust and I'm studying every day for 5-6 hours a day,
Right.
and that was a big change.
Right.
But it was awesome.
Absolutely. I always wonder how people are able. I've heard about the diesel mechanic thing. I've met people, and specifically diesel mechanics.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot of hard work. I'm sure there's different routes that people could go in that industry, sure, but I've
yeah,
always wondered how people stuck through it, and maybe they just really like it. Flight training is really hard too.
yeah. Flight training is
Maybe in
hard.
a lot different ways. Like you said, there's a lot
Yeah.
of studying. I mean, you're flying a plane; it's pretty scary. I mean, there's a lot. It's not necessarily high risk, but it's there's a lot of safety involved. So, how can you talk about the different kind of difficulty it is?
Yeah, so like flight training is very difficult,
Yeah.
right? But it's so rewarding, right?
Mm,
You
mm,
grind. It's a grind. Every single day you show up and you're studying, you're making sure you know all the FARs, not all the FARs, right? But you have a good knowledge of FARs, you have a good knowledge of your airplane.
mm,
And then guess what? You got to go show them that you can fly that airplane. You can't
mm.
just talk about it. So it was a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding within that hard work, and that's what I really appreciate. and it never stops. It never ends with aviation.
Mm.
You work really, really hard. Like I'm working really hard right now as a flight instructor.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I build my hours and I go to the airline, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard work, but then there's always something rewarding at the end of it.
Right.
And that's what I really, really appreciate.
I like to ask pilots about what they want to do next, but the reason I do is because there's so much you can do in
Yeah.
aviation. Can you tell me about some of the things that you might be interested in achieving as a pilot, like some of the different types of careers and things like that?
Yeah. So for me, I've been dead set on airline. I want to be working for American,
Yeah.
right? I want to be on a wide body flying international.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Awesome.
So if I could get that, that's a dream come true for me.
Right. That makes sense. It seems like that's a lot of people's goals. I guess that's
Yeah.
why you come to Thrust.
Yep.
Why did you choose the Part 61 in the first place?
So for me, it was like, okay, I can choose my own schedule and I can work as well. So I was going to work as a diesel mechanic, and then I could kind of choose my own schedule um, and do it self-paced.
Yeah.
But that just ended up not working out for me.
Okay.
But yeah.
So you had to accept the fact that you were going to go full time at
Yeah.
a with a program like Thrust, because I hear a lot of people go to Part 61 because it's like a softer commitment,
Yeah.
which I think is maybe the right thing to do in a lot of scenarios, because you want to make sure you like flying, make sure it's the kind of thing you're interested in. It is a softer commitment and it's flexible.
Yeah.
But that's the same reason a lot of people do switch over.
Exactly.
And so I guess my question to you is going to be like, is it not kind of scary to sit there and go full time into a flight training program that costs a lot of money?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely scary, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. But for me, I needed structure with my aviation career. I wasn't gonna self study.
Mm.
I I would have had to learn how to study. I would have had to learn what to study, things like that. And then I would have had to learn all the flying stuff. Thrust itself has so many resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talked me through that. Admissions talked me through that. It's like when I walked through Thrust, there was people sitting down in groups studying together, and I was like, "This is what I need. This is how I'm going to get to where I want to be." And when I joined, it was very much like that. We have a group that we still talk to today, right? Everybody's going on their own different paths, but we're still such a tight knit group because we started together. And so it's a community, it's a family, and I really appreciate that. There's so many resources with Thrust, study guides. EOCs is one crazy resource. We don't have to go to a DPE for some of our check rides. It's like, this is nice. You know who you're going to take a check ride with. You've probably talked to him before.
Exactly.
So that's huge. But just so many resources, countless resources.
Yeah, and EOC, for those who don't know, is an end of course exam. Basically the same thing as a check ride. The difference is that we call it an EOC because we can do it in house without having to rely on a DPE. That's only because we've partnered with the FAA to say, hey, we'll meet a certain high level of standard that you guys set for us as an institution. And therefore, as long as we meet that standard, we can have certain certified CFIs say, you can get this certificate instead of having to rely on a DPE. The reason we do that is so that we don't have to wait on the DPEs.
Yep.
That's how we can move so fast. It's called examining authority. If you're interested in flight training, look for a school that has examining authority. You don't have to, but I'm saying if you see examining authority, that's a good indicator that they can move you through as quickly as they may claim.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like what you said about if you would have stuck with the Part 61, you would have had to learn how to study and what to study before even getting good at doing the studying, right? And I think that's kind of like a good way to put that. I think I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah.
I need that sort of guidance. I'm like, I'll study. I'm sure I can get good at it.
Yeah.
But like, I can't be figuring out 3 things at once just to get the knowledge in my brain. So that makes sense. Now that you're at Thrust, you're a CFI.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the difficulty of going through flight training? Specifically private, instrument, and commercial, because there's ground, then there's actually flying, but then you have to go through the actual program itself, which is fast paced and has stage checks. Can you tell me a little bit about the difficulty of going through the training?
Yeah. So starting day 1, we sit there and we go through a ground class. Right, ground starts on day 1.
Mm.
And so it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's a crazy feeling to go from doing nothing, to now I'm back into what feels like high school, but it's like a college class because
Right.
we're talking about very sophisticated stuff, right? There's a lot of information that we're talking through. So private for me was a shock, big
Hmm.
shock factor. Once I get through the first week, I schedule my written, get my written done, and I'm like, okay, I can do anything now. After
Right.
I got my written done, I had to prove it to myself. So private for me, studying ground was probably the hardest. Flying was made easy because I had a great flight instructor,
Yeah.
and you've got to take bites at it every day.
Right.
If you try to um, just tackle everything in one day, you're not going to be successful. So
Right.
for me, it was taking little bit of bites every single day, getting better and progressing every single day
Hmm.
during private, and that's what helped me a lot. Sometimes I would get way ahead of myself and try to take too big of a bite, and it would knock me back. It would humble me a lot because I thought I was the best.
Right.
Um, so that was private for me. A big
Mm.
shock factor at first, and then after proving to myself that I can study and I can do this, it went nice and smooth
Right.
from that point on.
I feel like when I hear people talk about moving at a certain pace, I
Yeah,
always want to ask about that because it is a fast-paced program, and so it's really and you need to be prideful in your work.
yeah,
So those two things combined can add a lot of pressure to yourself,
yeah,
and it can make it to where it's hard to sit there and say bite size, one thing
yeah.
at a time. Failure is okay. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about your ability to sit there and keep your mind focused on bite size? Don't rush. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, have you struggled with that, and how did you remind yourself to do that?
Yeah, I struggle with it a lot,
Yeah,
right?
maybe there's a time when that happened too. I don't know. But,
Yeah, I mean, nothing really stands out. It's every
yeah.
day, right? You're constantly trying to take in as much information as you can,
Mhm.
and then hey, you forget it sometimes,
Yeah.
So failure, like I couldn't let the thought of failure plague my mind, and
Right.
so I would throw that out, and I would just have a ton of confidence into everything I was going into. Right, confidence is key.
Right.
That's the only way I got through anything is by confidence.
Hmm.
So really just focusing on what I'm good at,
Hmm.
right? Um, Turning my eyes to that, focusing on what I'm bad at as well,
Right.
and then chair flying, doing everything I can to study to be better at that, right?
Mm.
And then guess what? If I go in there and fail, I have a great instructor that retrains me,
Right.
and then I go and try again, and I do great, right? And that's usually how it went every single time. Um, not every single time I'm failing though, nothing like that. But it's
Right.
like if there was something wrong, right? I go retrain. I have great instructors all around me. I can't
Mm.
complain about one of the instructors I had, and
Mm.
they would get me to the next level of my training. But yeah, it's a big picture. It's a lot of information to take in every day. Um, and there was times where I tried to take in too much and I would fail. I would try to study, 4 hours before I go fly, and then now my brain's just not
Mm.
fit for flying.
Mm.
So it was just a matter of learning that process, learning what happens when I do too much,
Right.
and then having a good pace through that. And that's just learned.
Mhm.
It's nothing that it doesn't come quick at all.
Right. It's kind of I kind of I've been discovering this like thought process that naturally occurs in flight training, which is everyone wants to come in, try really hard, do their best. It's kind of overwhelming. Then you realize I need to slow down, take some pressure off myself, but also work harder at the same time, which
Yeah.
is like a weird
It's
conundrum.
so weird.
Yeah,
But we
it's
just do it and it
yeah,
just works. I
right.
don't even know how to explain it,
And
but it's
well,
weird.
the word is, I think the word that I've been liking to try to use is, I think that's what humility feels like.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that. It's like I'm gonna be the best at this, and then you go in there the next day and you've studied for like 8 hours the day before, and you just like, why am I forgetting it? Oh, maybe because you overworked, right? Now
Yeah.
you have to find your pace. Don't do too much,
Yeah.
but do just enough. And it's like you ride that fine line in flight training the whole time.
I've been saying this thing with my friends. I call it doing the bare minimum, which
It's
obviously people like that's kind of has a negative connotation to it. But I
yeah,
think that like, what's the bare minimum that's gonna make sure you're a good pilot?
exactly.
Focus on that first.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to think about things, in my opinion.
yeah,
I'm not a pilot. For anyone who's listening, I'm still not a pilot. I just talk to a lot of pilots, and so that's why I like to ask you guys a lot of questions. But one thing I wanted to ask you about there is preparation. I hear you
Yeah.
talking a lot about preparation. You moved from thinking that you could just work really hard and focus really hard and like, have a really good mindset into let's actually prepare a lot.
Yeah.
I think when I first started this podcast, Evan Christner, I remember he was someone I did some videos with.
Yep.
We've done a handful of pods with him already.
Yep.
And I remember every time I try to ask him, what's one of your number one pieces of advice? Anytime I asked any CFI this or even student, they just say preparation. And
Yeah.
I just, it felt generic to me from
Yeah.
the outside. It felt generic. But that's all you're talking about, right? Is
Preparation.
preparation, yeah.
It's all it is.
Yeah. And so you talk about chair flying, you talked about studying, you're talking about like when you mess something up, you go back and read that same part.
Yeah.
None of that has anything to do with a skill really other than studying and preparing.
Right.
Yeah.
Studying and preparing is everything. So the more you can prepare, the better you'll be.
Yeah.
The one thing that you do have to have skill at is flying that airplane.
Right.
You've got to be a great pilot to pass. Or you're just not going to get your ratings.
Right.
So that's where we focus in on skills and we focus in on how to fly the airplane correctly. So that when we do go take tests, they're easy. Right. So that, we're preparing, but we're preparing in a different way. We're preparing during our flight lessons for the tests that we have to do.
In your flight training, was there a time, especially in private, I think a lot of people relate to this. So was there a time when you sort of felt like you got stuck and maybe even plateaued a little bit and wondered if, am I moving too slow?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to do this? Or how do I get past this? Is there a plateau moment in your private or at any part in your flight training?
Yeah. First week I started at thrust. It was just so much information.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I had not done any research. I have this thing where I just jump fearlessly into something and I'm like, I have no idea about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
Yeah, that was kind of my mindset with thrust is like, I'll jump into it, I'll be fine. And everybody's talking about how fast paced it is, things like that. I'm like, I'll be fine.
Right.
So I jump into thrust and the first week I was ready to quit. I was done. I just was like, I can't do this. So thank God for my parents, right? They're like, no, you're staying in school. You can do it, right? Take bites. And that's where I started learning that take bite thing that I talk about.
Wow.
You just take little bites of it at one time, and eventually it all comes together, right? And so it was the written for me that I proved to myself that I could do it. So I studied really, really hard for 1 week, got my written done, my private pilot written, got a really good grade on it, and I was like, wait, I can do this. That was my moment of like, I'm gonna put my head down and do what I just did through all of my training, and it worked. It was great. But yeah, first week I was done.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who have an experience, a lot of times even in their first week, but it just some point in their private, because private's got to be one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's just getting ready to go through their private training or maybe are at a plateau like that?
Yeah. If they're at a plateau, approach every day as if yesterday didn't happen, right? If yesterday was bad, start today like it never even happened, right? Tell yourself you're the best pilot. Tell yourself you're a great pilot. Anything you have to do to keep your mind off of the bad things that you did. Because if you focus on the bad, then all you're going to worry about is doing bad, and then you'll do bad. So we focus on the good, we do good, and it makes a great pilot, right? So working through plateaus is as simple as just getting a lot of confidence. Gain as much confidence in yourself as you can. Though you're going to have bad days, know that that's a part of the process, right? That is everything. You're going to have bad days in everything that you do, right? There's always bad days, and then usually a good day follows, and it's great, right? So that's kind of my mindset and how I approach it.
Right. Okay. Well, now you're a CFI, and so
Yeah.
you get to, I'm sure you have to give that
Absolutely.
advice sometimes. And it'd be nice to hear that, I'm sure, if I was in that position. So thank you for that. As a CFI, what's probably one of your favorite things getting to work on with people?
I like building confidence in people. I like seeing my students up there, up at thrust, like talking to everybody, shaking people's hands, just happy to be there, right?
Right.
Because like that's how I am. I'm like so
Mhm.
happy to be at work every day because I get to go to fly every single day, and like
Mhm.
I want the students to be like that.
Yeah.
So I just try to build as much confidence in them as I can.
Mhm.
But one thing I also really appreciate with flying and training is I get to see my students blossom into what their potential is, right?
Right.
They they get to learn so much. I get to give them so much information, and then I get to see them apply it and then go in there and pass a test, and it's like, dang, that feels really good. Like I'm a good instructor, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's huge for me.
That's awesome. I think that's it sounds like it's an important part of being a CFI to
Yeah.
me. How did you have to adapt to becoming to grow into your CFI role? Well, let me ask you a question before that. How long have you been a CFI now?
Oh, let me think here. No, 7 months.
7 months.
7 months. Yeah,
Okay,
7 months.
gotcha. And so you're 7 months in. When did you kind of start to trust yourself as a CFI?
Um, I still don't know. I'm just kidding. No. So first couple days were rough, right? It's like, dang, like this is a lot of responsibility. You've
Yeah.
never flown without an instructor. I mean, I have a ton, but
Right.
like, um, it's just so weird.
All the pressure's on you now,
All
though.
the pressure's on me,
You're
right?
the safety.
I'm the responsible guy. I'm the safe one in the airplane. So that took a little while to get adjusted to,
Hmm.
but I feel like I was gifted with a natural talent to teach and talk, and so that's really helpful
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
this career now. But it's a lot of responsibility at first.
Yeah.
Probably I would say about 2 months, or no, probably about a month to feel good and get in my shoes and get in a flow of how work feels every day.
Right, right. That's awesome. Because a lot of people are entering the CFI, workforce, and that's
Yeah,
it's a little nerve wracking, especially if you're like a lower time pilot, right? But I think some people argue, many people I've heard argue that being a lower time pilot straight out of training makes you more likely to be a good CFI because you're more close to what it is that you're teaching and the
yeah,
people that you're working with. Let's just pretend that you're talking to a student. It's like maybe their first day, their first week,
yeah.
and you're the CFI that you are. And for some reason, the conversation of chair flying is up, and you want to make chair flying very blatantly, obviously important to the student.
Yeah.
How would you describe chair flying to someone who doesn't even understand aviation yet, uh, and emphasize the importance of it?
Okay. So chair flying um is awesome. One, but chair flying is essentially I have a chair. I put a poster of my airplane in front of me
Hmm.
and I sit in that chair like I'm flying the airplane,
Okay.
right? I have all the buttons in front of me, like I can see all the switches, everything. So I'm going through my flows. And that's really what chair flying helps with is going through checklists, going through flows. It's you can't simulate flying the airplane, but you can go through your flows and your checklist. So that's what I do. I sit down, I touch all the buttons on the poster, right? I probably look like a fool, but I don't care because
Yeah.
I'm my flows are, I'm remembering my flows, and then I can go straight into the airplane and replicate the same exact thing.
Hmm.
That's great. Right?
Right.
That's what chair flying is uh memorization of flows
Hmm.
and actually seeing a poster cockpit of your airplane out in front of you
Right.
and touching the buttons. And then you go in the airplane the next day. When we get in there and I give you an engine failure, you know
Hmm.
the exact flow to go through.
Right. It's sort of like rehearsing choreography.
Yeah, it is choreography.
Yeah, that's I think I don't know. I'd be interested to know that if you use that word a lot with your students, if it would like really make them. Do students are students resistant to chair flying?
I would say some students are.
Hmm.
They're kind of they think it's a hoax at first,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Hey, I want you to chair fly tonight." They get in there the next day, and it's like a different pilot. I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh, this is it's black and white, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's so much of a difference when they
Uh-huh.
chair fly,
Yeah.
and then the second that they chair fly and they see it happen the next day that they're so much better, they just keep chair flying,
Yeah.
right?
They're
That
like, oh,
starts
I
the
get it.
process, and then they start preaching to people, "Hey, you need to be chair flying. You need to be
Yeah.
chair flying, right?"
And a lot of the conversations I've had with pilots on this podcast about plateauing as a pilot in training, um, chair flying seems to be a common thing that they help to get themselves out of chair out of plateauing.
Yeah.
Uh, because they weren't doing it before. They didn't see the importance of it. But it's only until some people get desperate about how do I get past this part of my flight training do
Yeah.
they start to try things like chair flying.
Yeah. I mean, the
So
best thing that happens in flight training to you, and I hate saying this, but falling on your face over and over again and learning from your mistakes is the only way you grow.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
it takes that for
Yep.
sure.
Before we go on to talk a little bit about you becoming an Envoy Cadet, which again is kind of loaded maybe, but
Yeah.
before we go on to that, I still want to revisit the full time thing. You decided that at some point you were going to start with thrust flight as a student pilot,
Yeah.
and that meant for you quitting your job, going full time into flight training. I want to. That's scary to some people.
Yeah.
You can understand some of the concerns someone might have with like not being able to work and things like that.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about what that thought process was like for you?
Yeah. For me, it was an investment. You've got to invest in yourself to have a great future. And I took out a loan, and I invested in myself, right? And I was like, I know that in 5 years, I'm going to be able to pay this loan off because I'm going to be working at an airline and
Right.
doing what I love each and every day,
Right.
right? And so I saw it as an investment. Okay,
Right.
a year worth of my time for a career worth of many experiences and a great career, right?
Right.
They say it's the best part-time job you can have, being an airline pilot.
Right.
So it was an investment into my future, and I would make it again 1,000 times.
Right. And so, I mean, you sound like you have supportive parents. Are
Yeah,
they able to help you
absolutely.
when you're
Yeah.
not working, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Is that a
So
part of the equation? You don't have to share if you don't
no,
want,
I
but yeah.
mean, no, yeah.
Yeah.
So my parents definitely did help me.
Mhm.
But working for a year as a diesel mechanic, I was able to save up a lot of money.
Okay.
Not a lot of money, but a good amount of money to get me through a year's worth of flight training.
Right.
And I don't have I don't have any kids or a wife or anything like that, so it's a little bit easier of a decision for me. But I
Mhm.
know so many people that have gone through the school with kids and a wife and a family that they have to support, and they pull it off somehow. I don't know how they do it, but like they do it, and it's an investment for them. And now I look at them 2 years later, they're flying for the airline now, and their families are living great lives.
Yeah.
And it's like it's an investment.
It is. And I like that you brought it up that way because the answer is the same regardless. And some people don't always have as much support, but you have to have. Most people will argue that you're going to need some sort of support going through this, and I think that's likely. No matter what, if you're deciding to do this, it's going to be have to look. You're going to have to look at it as an investment.
Yeah.
Many of our guests have families and have decided to do this and have not regretted it.
Yeah.
So to your point, you said you'd do it 1,000 times over.
Yeah, I would.
Well, then does the money part? I mean, you said you saved up some money, but did you have to take out some loan
Yeah.
amount to help you with this?
Yeah, so I took out a loan
Mhm.
for the cost of my training here at Thrust.
Mhm.
So I took out my loan, and then I have money on the side, right, to buy food every week and
Yeah.
to buy things like that.
And that's built into the loan too?
No, it wasn't
Oh, okay.
built into the loan. This is what I saved up working as a diesel mechanic.
Right.
And so I paid for my school, and then I was able to live off the money I saved up as a diesel mechanic,
Mhm.
and that's kind of how I approached it.
Okay.
But yeah,
Did you so I want to ask you a little bit about that too,
yeah,
if you don't mind.
no, you're good.
How much did you know about the loan before you just accepted it? Did you worry about interest and things like that a little bit?
Yeah, me and my family, my parents were looking at the loan with me, and they were like, "Oh man, this is a lot of money, right?"
Yeah.
And I actually got a quote before,
Mhm.
and the loan, or the interest on the loan was like 13% or something
Yeah.
like that. So we
On a
ended up,
big loan too,
yeah,
so it's like, yeah.
it was crazy. So I ended up just taking out a loan through my bank,
Mm.
and was able to get a way better interest rate through my bank. And now I'm just paying it through my bank, and that worked out a lot better for me.
Could they match the size that you needed
Oh
that was
yeah,
similar to? Yeah?
yeah,
That's
that was
crazy.
easy. Yeah, it
Did you
was.
need a cosigner through your bank?
My parents co-signed for
Okay.
me. Yeah, but
Um,
it was like that was it.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
way better. And I always wonder about that sort of thing. A cosigner is going to help often.
Oh yeah.
And not everyone will be able to do that, but there's ways around it, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
there's also the ability to. So a lot of people go through Sally Mae. I'm sure
Oh yeah.
you looked.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, the 13%.
Yeah. And it was only like that for me, because of the time I did it one, and I didn't ever. My parents didn't co-sign on that one. It
Hmm.
was just like straight me. I've never I'd never had a credit line, like
Uh-huh.
no credit history whatsoever.
Oh, wow, but you still got approved
I
for it, so
still got
if anything,
approved.
it's impressive.
Yeah, I still got approved, but I
Yeah.
was like, I just can't do it. But that's that's kind of why that interest rate was so high through Sally Mae, is because I had no credit history whatsoever.
Right. Right. And that makes sense. And then if you added someone, maybe that would have gone down. But
Yeah,
for people listening, Sally Mae does allow you to defer your payments. Like if you're working as a CFI and say, hey, I'm working, I'm here's what I'm doing right now, but I need to defer them because I only make this much.
yeah,
And there's sometimes options for things like that. There's also options for refinancing it later,
a
either
lot of
through
people do
Sally
it.
Mae or through a different party, and that can lower your interest rate. People do a lot of those things. So
Yep.
I just like to bring this up because it's kind of hard to talk about money, but also it's the biggest point.
Yeah,
It's the biggest part of the decision when starting flight training, and
absolutely.
I want to start kind of tackling on that a little bit more. That being said, if our listeners are listening and our viewers are watching, and if you want to know a little bit, if you want us to have more of this conversation more often, please give us a like or a comment and let us know, and I'll maybe squeeze it in a little bit better more often. Okay, well, you're here and you're doing a good job. You're
Yeah,
gonna figure out the money when it comes time to figure it out. You're
yeah.
gonna have to pay it back, but it looks like you're gonna hopefully be making some good money in
Oh
the
yeah,
airlines.
oh
So
yeah.
um, let me ask you about this Envoy Cadet program that is supposed to help you get to the airlines, right?
Right.
Um, without me introducing it at all, can you tell me a little bit about your understanding about what that is?
Yeah. So what I applied for was the Envoy Cadet Instructor position.
Okay.
Um, and before I started flight training, I didn't know anything about this, but through flight training, we start hearing more and more about these cadet programs. And a
Mm-hmm.
cadet program is a way to get in with a company, and be one of theirs, right?
Right.
You can make a commitment or you cannot make a commitment, things like that. But you have an interview with the company, guaranteed. So it's really nice to be a cadet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cadet programs in a whole right
Mm-hmm.
there.
Right. And I know they're gonna vary from airline to airline,
Yeah,
right? But the point is that you, like you just said, it's supposed to help you get in the door
yeah,
with the airlines.
yep,
And I think that there's probably three major concerns. If I were to sit here and think off the top of my head, for every person entering flight training, it's going to be the cost of flight training,
yep,
and it's going to be, can I get a job as a CFI or anything that's going to help me build hours,
yep,
right? Because that's important to get 1,500 hours to be able to be eligible for your ATP so that
yep,
you can join the airlines. And then third, can I get a job at the airlines? Are they going to be hiring?
right,
Right? So you have to be able to, again, be okay with a loan, be okay with getting at one job, and then be okay with getting another job once you qualify
yep,
for it. I think those are the most stressful things, but they are all achievable, and they're much more accessible than they used to be in the past.
yeah,
Let me ask you this though. The cadet program that you're in now, what are some of the benefits it offers you, if you don't mind sharing? If I don't know,
yeah.
I don't understand them. So
So I gotta. What happened is I go and take an interview with Envoy,
hmm
and it's an in-person interview. It was a lot of fun. They make it a really fun process. They serve you breakfast. They talk you through the company and what's awesome about the company.
hmm
And in that, I started learning what I get as a cadet. Right.
okay,
So, um, one, full flight benefits, and that's insane. Like, I
ah,
don't work for the airline right now, yet I have flight
you
benefits.
haven't had to do your interview yet, right?
No, I did my interview.
Oh, you did do your
Yeah.
interview. Okay, that's what I was making.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I did my interview,
but
and
you're not even onboarded.
yeah, I'm not onboarded, but they
Yeah.
gave me an offer, right? And yeah, flight benefits, which is insane. It's like, how can you beat that?
Yeah.
You're not even working for the airline, but you get flight
That's
benefits. So you're
awesome.
one of theirs, right? They treat you as one of theirs.
Okay.
And that's huge.
Mhm.
So that's one of the many benefits. And just, having the name of an Envoy Cadet
Okay.
uh gets your foot in the door to talk to many different people.
Mhm.
Um and network through that, saying, "Hey, I'm an Envoy,
Right.
cadet."
Do you know if, and I'm gonna want to revisit a lot of that stuff, but do you know if it changes often, the benefits and the ability to get into it and things like that? Do you know much about that?
It's so I don't know a ton about it, but I
hmm
can tell you this: when the airlines are hiring, they'll swing open the doors for these cadet positions,
hmm
and they'll start onboarding a lot of cadets because that stacks them up. They've got a group of pilots now that they know that when they hit their hours, they're going to go to their airline and fly their
Okay.
airplanes. So that really helps them a lot.
Okay.
Um, but that's onboarding itself. Like if the airlines aren't flowing, then the cadets won't be flowing. Things like
Either.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of puts you in the queue though.
Yeah.
It's like trying to buy concert tickets and you're like waiting on Ticketmaster
Yeah.
for the. I don't know if
Yeah.
everyone relates to that, but okay. So right now you're in that queue. You're considered like one of theirs. You have flight benefits.
Yep.
It's easier to feel a lot more secure about like what's happening next and getting a job,
Yep.
even if you're waiting. But you're waiting. So what are you waiting on now? What like can you explain that to me?
Yeah. So I'm building 1,500 hours
Mm-hmm.
as an instructor at Thrust.
Mm-hmm.
So what's really cool about this Envoy instructor cadet position, right,
Mm-hmm.
is I can work at Thrust Flight because we are partnered with Envoy. So I
Okay.
don't have to go find a job at a different school or anything like that. I
Uh-huh.
work at Thrust,
Mm-hmm.
and then I build my 1,500 hours, and then boom, like that, they give me a class date, and then I'm training at Envoy.
Right.
So it got my foot in the door, getting this cadet position
Uh-huh.
to have a training date with Envoy,
Okay.
right? And that's as soon as after I hit my hours.
Right. After you hit your hours, then at some point, the next step will be receiving a date at which you get to start training with them, right?
Exactly.
It's like a class date.
Yeah, because my interview's already done.
Okay, right.
And
Okay.
that's insane.
So you qualify and then position opens up and you receive it.
Yeah,
You're in
literally.
the queue. That's awesome. So even if there's a possibility though that you'll be at like 1,500 hours and might still have to wait, right?
So they in the paper agreement, I believe it says like the next available class date. So once I hit my 1,500 hours, the next available training class date, that's when I'll start.
Okay.
And I haven't, read a ton about it and read all the words on the document, but
Yeah.
but that's from my understanding, that's how it is.
Yeah, as long as they're hosting class day, new training classes, you're
Yeah.
gonna be in one.
Exactly.
So that's really awesome. Okay. The other thing I'm questioning about this cadet program thing is that are you're pretty much committed though, right?
Yeah.
Some commit and some don't. Envoy though kind of keeps you committed, right?
I'm committed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Envoy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
And
you don't want to not be committed.
yeah,
Though.
Envoy flows to American, so
Yeah.
it's like it's perfect scenario for me.
Yeah, that
I
makes
get to
sense.
I get to get a lot of great training at Envoy, and I get to do a ton of regional flying, which is gonna
Mhm.
give me so much airline flying experience, 121 experience.
Right.
Where then I'll flow to American, and it's just gonna be absolutely great. Right, the flow is awesome.
Right. No, I mean it's like a perfect pipeline
Oh yeah,
actually, and not a lot of. I mean, you can go to college and get a degree and then still be kind of like, what do I do now?
yeah,
Right. But you shouldn't have to feel that way in pilot training. At least if you go to the right programs that are partnered with the right places.
right.
Partnered with Envoy. That's what Thrust is. We're partnered with
Yep.
Envoy. How does that matter in this scenario? Because you said, do we have to be partnered with Envoy in order for you to have gotten this?
Yeah, so Thrust, right, we're partnered with Envoy, and
Uh-huh.
this is huge because I put my airline application in with Envoy as an Envoy cadet.
Right.
The second I put instructor at Thrust Flight, 4 days later, I have an interview date.
Okay.
Like, it's insane. So, though you don't have to be, that's how much it helps,
Mhm,
right? So,
mhm.
like, you're not going to get that at a Part 61 school. You go to a Part 1 and 41 school that is partnered with Envoy or partnered with any airline,
Mhm.
and that's how much that name brings with you, right?
Mm.
So I don't think I would have got this cadet position if it wasn't for Thrust on my application.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
we're really harping on this right now because I've had many CFIs and students and airline pilots who got to the airlines however they had to talk to me about we need to talk more about partnerships.
Yeah.
We need more partnerships. We need to talk
Yes.
about them. We also just partnered with United Aviate. They
Yep.
aren't training anymore. So there's no competition there.
Yeah.
But the benefits are similar, right? There's the partnerships are supposed to allow our students and CFIs more access to getting careers in the airlines.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, whatever program you're in where you're training for your flight training, look into a cadet program. They all do different things. Some make you commit to them to where it doesn't leave your options as open as others. Some don't do that. Some have the flight benefits,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
may not. Some lead into a certain airline, and I think most of them lead into a certain airline.
Yeah.
But the idea is that this is how you get your foot in the door, and like you said too, it's not always necessary to be partnered with a school for you to be able to qualify, but sometimes it is, and oftentimes it'll help.
Yeah, it
So I just
does.
want to make this as clear as possible because I want to make this clear to people. So
Yeah.
do we partner with other schools that you're aware of at the moment?
I,
I'm
I
not sure.
I know we're partnered with Envoy and United Aviate as of now.
Okay.
And I'm not sure of anywhere else, but I know that Envoy and United Aviate is 100%, like, we're locked in. That's our partnership schools.
Okay.
And Envoy's, for me, it's the best one out of all of them. You
You're
know,
right. That sounds, yeah.
it's Envoy.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Let just before we wrap up things, let's work a little backwards here, right?
Yeah.
You've gotten your Envoy Cadet position as a instructor. There's also options for students, for the record.
Yeah.
That's one of those big three concerns taken care of.
Yeah.
The other concern is becoming a CFI, which you've gotten past, right?
Yep.
What could you say to people who are going to be looking for a CFI position? How could they prepare themselves to be very likely to get a CFI position?
Be an open and honest person.
Mhm.
Be somebody that's easy to talk to, right? If you can be a great communicator and
Mhm.
you can one, just really transfer what you're trying to say to people,
Right.
and it actually click to them. That's huge, and you can show that during your interview. You
Yeah.
can show how great of a communicator you are.
Right.
So that's what they're looking for. In instructors is just
Mm.
being a dang good communicator.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I think that's probably a bigger thing than it even
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like. The reason I say that is I think the ability to communicate is like probably one of the. I mean, soft skills seem to be almost more important than the hard skills
yeah,
in aviation because it's what's going to get you where you want to go. Be a good pilot, know everything you need to know. But
exactly.
man, if you can't like be somewhat likable, talk
Yeah,
to a stranger, navigate complex, like systems and companies, then it might not. You need to understand those sorts of things.
yeah.
It seems like. Can you tell me a little bit about being a good communicator? Then I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
pushing you
No,
down.
you're good.
Yeah.
Like, so I can be the best pilot I can be, right?
Mhm.
I can go out there and land the airplane perfect every single time,
Mhm.
but that still doesn't help me transfer my knowledge to a student.
Okay.
So I have to be able to break what I'm doing down
Mhm.
to a student, show them how to do it, and then them perform it, good or
Mhm.
satisfactorily.
Right.
And that's hard to do, but you have to know what clicks in their brain.
Right.
So saying the right words, one, um, using the right acronyms,
Mhm.
or using the right words to transfer your knowledge.
Right.
Because you can have all the knowledge in your brain, but if you can't transfer that to a student, you're not a great communicator.
Effectively,
Right?
yeah.
You've got to have effective communication, and we talk
Yes.
about that through our CFI training programs. Effective communication is one of the big things we talk about.
Right. We just had Travis on our last episode,
Yep.
and Travis did a good job at making it really clear about how serious it is to be like kind of standard and what it is that someone needs to know. They
Yeah.
need to know up to a certain standard, and you should be able to get people to that standard as a CFI,
Yep.
and that takes communication skills. So communication is about understanding what someone else needs to comprehend.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just about like the speech. It's communication is about connecting and getting someone there,
Yeah.
transferring that knowledge. So I'm just trying to harp on that a little bit,
Yeah.
just because it's like it's not just about talking.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you can talk
yeah,
all you want, but if you
yeah,
can't transfer knowledge, you're not a great instructor.
you're right. Yeah. So okay, great. So get good at that as a student,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then you'll be much more prepared to become to land a role as a CFI.
Yeah, what's cool
Okay.
is, like, the students at Thrust, they'll like proctor study halls, and they'll be teaching, right? They're learning how to get their CFI rating, but they're teaching these
Sorry.
students who are lower than them in ratings
Mm,
everything, and so they're learning that skill right then, and that's
yes.
wha- like, you're not gonna get that at 61 school. You're gonna get that at a 141 school that has a family that you can talk to everybody.
Yeah, and
Right?
you said something like that earlier. Like when you walked in, you could see everyone was
Oh yeah,
studying
it's
together.
a
So
family.
it's
It's a
awesome.
family.
And I like that's out of your mouth. You work here and you went to
Yeah.
school here. We can't take credit for that on the back end because you guys work hard in there. I see you guys studying all the
Yep.
time. So, okay, 2 out of 3 concerns kind of handled there. I
Yeah.
say handled, not to make light of them. Um, the first concern we talked about financially.
Yep.
How do you approach this? How do you wrap your brain around it? And no matter what, it's an investment.
Yep.
And the last question about that concern is how it's kind of obvious what you might say, but how do you plan on getting a return on that investment and paying that investment off?
Yeah. Going to the airline, right? It's as easy as that. The flow is set up for you, right? You do your training, you put in hard work, you flight instructor. You can time build other ways. It's not just flight instruction, but flight
Yeah,
instruction is the funnest in my opinion.
right,
And then you go to the airline, and then once you're at the airline, you're making six figures your first year,
yeah,
and then you're paying your loans off from that, right?
right,
And I've heard it comes really fast.
yeah.
The loan's paid off before you know it.
I've heard a lot of people do that pretty well. The I think that's a newer thing that people are expecting to make six figures in their first year. I
Yeah.
think even 5 years ago, maybe people weren't expecting that. I think it was like there's still a lot of places where it wasn't as accessible as it is now. It's more standard than it
Yeah.
used to be. How do you know that you might be making six figures in your first year? Can I ask that?
So when I went to the Envoy interview,
Uh-huh,
they had a company presentation,
uh-huh.
and they kind of showed us what our first year looks like, and it was somewhere under $100,000 a year,
Right.
right? But then you have to add on your day per diems, and
Hmm.
then after that, it was like, okay, now after adding that on, you're making somewhere like $105,000 a year,
Mm.
from what I remember. And
And
I was
that's not
like,
at
that's
that's at
first
a
year.
regional.
That's a
Yeah.
regional airline
Yeah.
first year. Like that's crazy as an FO.
Yeah.
And so you just only go up from there. Once you captain, you're making somewhere. I think it was like $200,000 a year. I was like, this
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just a regional airline.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's amazing. Okay,
yeah.
well, hey, don't convince me
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. We've had a great talk here.
Yeah.
I feel like we could just keep going. I feel like it's already gone for a little while, so we'll probably wrap it up here. But
Okay.
what I want to ask you is there any advice you have to anyone who's watching this or listening to this, and maybe they've started and quit, or maybe they just haven't started yet, and they just don't know if they want to, take that leap? What would you say to someone who hasn't started their flight training yet?
Just be persistent.
Yeah,
Just keep going after it.
yeah,
It's something that's not easy to do.
right,
Flying and the loan commitment and the committing of not working for an entire year. You might have a family, things like that. Just do it, right?
right,
Just jump in head first and don't worry about it.
yeah,
It'll work itself out, and it always turns out to be a great outcome. You've
right,
got to take chances to get anything in life, and
yeah.
if you're not taking chances, you're not going to get what you want out of life. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Okay, well, thank you again, Will,
Yeah,
for joining us.
absolutely.
It's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to understand your journey so far. I think this has been a great episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. And we do this week to week on every platform, including YouTube, for people who want to watch it rather than just listen to it. Please leave a like, a comment, or even hit that subscribe button. And that would really help other people who are interested in hearing about flight training find this whole podcast. And thank you guys for listening, and we look forward to seeing your comments next week.